The great chamber of the Galactic Council had never been so quiet. 12 different species sat in their assigned seats, their eyes fixed on the holographic display floating in the center of the room. Ambassador of the Confederacy stood at the control panel, his 4 eyes blinking nervously as he prepared to deliver news that would change everything. The Dominion has launched an invasion fleet toward the Sol system, he announced. His voice echoed through the silent chamber. 3,000 warships are currently traveling at maximum speed toward the human. A wave of murmurs spread through the assembled diplomats. They were known throughout the galaxy as conquerors. They had destroyed 17 civilizations in the past 10,000 years. Their military power was legendary, and their cruelty was even more famous. Counselor of the Republic leaned forward in her seat. Her long neck swayed slightly as she spoke. The humans have been spacefaring for only 2 centuries. Our intelligence reports indicate they possess no more than 40 combat vessels. This is not an invasion, Ambassador. This is an execution. The council members nodded in agreement. They had been watching humanity for many years, curious about the young species that had somehow managed to reach the stars despite spending most of their history fighting among themselves. Humans were strange creatures. They lived short lives, sometimes less than 100 years. They were emotional, unpredictable, and seemed to enjoy conflict. High Arbiter, the ancient being who led the council, raised his crystalline hand for silence. He was made of living stone, a silicon-based whose species had existed for millions of years. When he spoke, his voice sounded like rocks grinding together. "We cannot intervene in this matter," he declared. "The humans are not members of the Galactic Accord. They have never requested our protection. They have broken no laws that apply to non-member species." Lowered his head. "Then we can only watch. We watch as an entire species is destroyed." "Perhaps it is for the best," another counselor suggested. "The humans are violent and dangerous. Perhaps the galaxy is safer without them." Turned to look at him with disgust in her eyes. "No species deserves extinction, counselor, no matter how violent they may be." The debate continued for several hours, but the conclusion was already certain. The council would not act. The humans would face the alone, and they would almost certainly die. Far away, on a small blue planet orbiting a yellow star, a different kind of meeting was taking place. Admiral Samuel Drake stood in the underground command center buried deep beneath the mountains of Switzerland. He was 63 years old, with gray hair and tired eyes that had seen too many battles. For the past 40 years, he had served in the Earth Defense Force, rising through the ranks until he commanded all of humanity's military assets. Now he faced the greatest challenge of his career. "Confirm the sensor data," he ordered. Lieutenant Commander Vance, his most trusted aide, worked at her console. She was 35, brilliant with technology, and completely loyal to her commanding officer. After a moment, she looked up with fear in her eyes. "Confirmed, Admiral. 3,000 warships heading directly for Earth. Estimated arrival, 14 days. Drake nodded slowly. He had always known this day might come. From the moment humanity had first detected alien signals in space, they had understood that the universe might not be friendly. Every government on Earth had argued about how to respond. Some wanted to reach out in peace. Others wanted to hide and hope no one would notice them. Drake had argued for a third option: prepare for the worst. "What are our current assets?" he asked. Vance checked her data. 42 combat vessels officially registered, various defensive satellites and ground-based weapons, the colonial militia forces on Mars and the outer planets. Drake almost smiled. "And our unofficial assets?" Vance paused. Only a handful of people in the entire world knew about the secret projects that had been running for the past 80 years. Entire factories hidden underground, shipyards disguised as mining operations, weapons research conducted in facilities that did not exist on any map. "Protocol Omega is ready, sir," she said quietly. Drake picked up a secure communication device. He entered a code that only 12 people in all of human civilization knew. Then he spoke 3 words that would change history. Activate Protocol Omega. Across the Earth, hidden facilities began to wake up. In the deserts of Nevada, massive doors opened in the sand, revealing underground hangars filled with spacecraft that no one outside the military had ever seen. In the mountains of China, factories that had been dormant for decades roared to life, their automated systems beginning to produce weapons of incredible power. In orbit around Mars, what appeared to be civilian shipyards suddenly revealed their true purpose. Workers who had spent years building what they thought were cargo vessels learned that they had actually been constructing warships. On the dark side of the moon, a facility that officially did not exist began powering up systems that had been waiting for this moment. Admiral Drake watched as reports flooded in from around the solar system. Humanity's true military strength was finally being revealed. "How many ships can we field?" he asked. Vance studied the incoming data. Her eyes grew wide. "Sir, when all assets are activated, we will have over 1,000 combat vessels, plus the reserve fleet hidden in the asteroid belt." Drake nodded. It was still not enough to match the in numbers. 3,000 against 1,000 was bad odds, but humans had faced bad odds before. "There is something else, Admiral," Vance said. "The Special Projects Division reports that all prototype weapons are ready for deployment. They have never been tested in actual combat, but the scientists are confident they will work." Drake thought about the weapons she was referring to. Technologies that seemed like magic. Devices that bent the laws of physics in ways that should not be possible. Humanity had spent 80 years developing them in secret, hiding their true capabilities from a galaxy that thought they were primitive. "They think they are attacking a defenseless planet," Drake said quietly. "They think this will be easy." He turned to face his command staff, the men and women who would lead humanity into its first interstellar war. "Send a message to all fleet commanders," he ordered. "Tell them that the enemy is coming. Tell them that we will meet that enemy with everything we have. And tell them this: we will not surrender. We will not run. We will fight and we will win, because failure means the end of everything we are." The message went out across the solar system. On every ship, in every colony, humans prepared for battle. They were coming. They expected easy prey. They would find something very different. The news spread across Earth like wildfire. Every television channel, every radio station, every social media platform carried the same message. Aliens were coming, and they were not friendly. Governments that had spent decades denying the existence of extraterrestrial life now admitted the truth. The universe was full of intelligent species, and one of them wanted to destroy humanity. People reacted in different ways. Some panicked, rushing to stores to buy supplies and hiding in their homes. Others gathered in churches and temples, praying for salvation. But many simply went back to work because there was nothing else they could do. The battle would be fought in space, millions of kilometers away. The average person could only wait and hope. Colonel Benjamin Shaw stood on the bridge of his ship, watching through the massive windows as other vessels emerged from hidden construction bays scattered throughout the solar system. He was 41 years old, tall and strong, with dark skin and eyes that missed nothing. He had spent his entire military career preparing for a war that most people thought would never come. Now that war was here. "Status report," he ordered. Commander Torres, his second in command, checked her displays. She was 38, with short black hair and a sharp mind that could process tactical information faster than most computers. "We are receiving updates from Fleet Command," she reported. "Total vessel count is now at 412 combat ships. The reserve fleet in the asteroid belt adds another 600. Shaw nodded. 1,000 ships against 3,000. The numbers were not good, but numbers were not everything. "What about the special weapons?" he asked. Tors lowered her voice, even though everyone on the bridge had the highest security clearance possible. "All prototype systems are being installed on frontline vessels. The science teams say everything is ready." Shaw thought about those weapons. He had seen the test results, watched the videos of what they could do. Even after seeing the evidence with his own eyes, he still found it hard to believe. The things humanity had developed in secret would change the nature of warfare forever. Far from the solar system, the Galactic Council continued to observe. They had positioned a hidden monitoring station at the edge of human space, using technology that should have been undetectable. From there, they watched everything that happened. Ambassador stood in the observation room, surrounded by diplomats from a dozen different species. They all stared at the sensor displays in confusion. "I do not understand," Counselor said. "The humans are mobilizing, but the numbers make no sense. Our intelligence indicated they had fewer than 50 ships. Now we are detecting over 1,000. Studied the readings carefully. They were hiding their true strength, but why? Why would they pretend to be weak?" "Perhaps they feared us," another diplomat suggested. "Perhaps they thought we would attack them if we knew how powerful they really were." "That is possible," admitted. "Humans are known to be paranoid and suspicious. They trust no one, not even each other." High Arbiter entered the observation room, his massive stone body making the floor vibrate with each step. He moved to the main display and examined the data. "There is something else," he announced. "The energy readings from the human solar system are far beyond anything we expected. They are generating power at levels that should be impossible for their level of technology." "How is that possible?" asked. "I do not know," admitted. "But I am beginning to suspect that we have made a serious error in our assessment of this species." On Earth, preparations continued at a frantic pace. In hidden facilities around the world, scientists worked around the clock to make final adjustments to weapons that had been in development for decades. Dr. Carroll stood in her laboratory, examining the device that her team had spent 15 years building. She was 52 years old, with gray streaks in her brown hair and glasses that she constantly pushed up her nose. She was one of the most brilliant physicists who had ever lived, and she had devoted her life to creating something that would protect her planet. "Is it ready?" Admiral Drake asked, appearing on the communication screen. Carol looked at the device, a sphere of metal and crystal that hummed with barely contained energy. "It is ready, Admiral. All 15 units have been installed on the designated ships. When activated, they will create a field that allows our vessels to move through folded space. Basically, they will be able to teleport short distances." Drake nodded. "And the weapons?" "The directed energy projectors are functioning at full capacity. Each one can focus enough power to destroy a capital ship with a single shot. They have never seen anything like them. No one has." "How long can we sustain combat operations?" Carol hesitated. "That is the problem, Admiral. These systems drain enormous amounts of power. Each ship can only operate at full capacity for approximately 4 hours. After that, the reactors will need to cool down." 4 hours, Drake repeated. "We will have to make every second count." Across the solar system, the human fleet assembled. Ships of all sizes gathered near Mars, forming a defensive line that stretched for thousands of kilometers. Pilots and crews said goodbye to their families through video calls, knowing they might never see them again. On the colony ship Hope, which had been converted into a mobile hospital, Dr. Maria Santos prepared her medical teams for the casualties that were sure to come. She was 45, a veteran of colonial medical emergencies, and she knew that the next few days would test everyone to their limits. "We have beds for 10,000 wounded," her assistant reported. Maria shook her head. "Prepare for 20,000 and set up emergency stations in every cargo bay. We are going to need them." The hours passed slowly. Sensor stations tracked the approaching fleet, counting down the time until contact. Fear spread through the human ranks, but so did determination. These were people who had grown up hearing stories about humanity's struggles, about the wars and disasters that their ancestors had survived. They came from a species that had never given up, no matter how bad things became. Admiral Drake addressed the entire fleet through a system-wide broadcast. His face appeared on screens aboard every ship, in every colony, in every military installation. In a few days, we will face an enemy that thinks we are weak. They think we will be easy to conquer. They are wrong. We have prepared for this moment for 80 years. We have built weapons they cannot imagine. We have trained for a battle they do not expect. When they come for us, we will show them what humanity can do when our survival is at stake. We will show them that attacking Earth was the worst mistake they ever made. The fleet responded with cheers that echoed through the void of space. They were afraid, but they were ready. The storm was coming, and humanity would meet it head-on. The fleet emerged from faster-than-light travel at the edge of the solar system. 3,000 warships, each one bristling with weapons, dropped into normal space in perfect formation. It was the largest invasion force the Dominion had ever assembled, a display of military power meant to crush any resistance before it could begin. Fleet Commander stood on the bridge of his flagship, a massive dreadnought called the Conqueror. He was old by standards, over 200 years of age, with dark scales covering his reptilian body and scars from dozens of battles marking his hide. He had destroyed civilizations. He had broken empires. This small species called humanity would be just another trophy. "Begin long-range scans," he ordered. "Locate the human fleet and calculate intercept vectors." His sensor officer worked the controls. Seconds passed. Then the officer made a strange sound, something between confusion and fear. "Commander, I am detecting anomalous readings." "Explain," demanded. "Human vessels, sir, but the numbers are not matching our intelligence reports." The officer paused, checking his instruments again. "I am detecting over 1,000 warships forming a defensive line near the fourth planet." His eyes narrowed. "That is impossible. Our spies reported fewer than 50 combat vessels." "The readings are confirmed, Commander. Additionally, I am detecting weapons signatures that do not match any known human technology. These are systems we have never seen before." Before could respond, a communication signal appeared on his screen. Someone was hailing his flagship. He hesitated for a moment, then accepted the transmission. The face that appeared was human, female, with short brown hair and eyes as cold as the void between stars. She wore a military uniform that bore no insignia recognized. "I am Admiral Price of Earth Defense Command," she said. Her voice was calm and steady. "You have entered human sovereign space with hostile intent. You have exactly one opportunity to reverse course and withdraw your forces. There will be no second warning." Laughed. It was a harsh sound like metal scraping against stone. "You threaten me, human. Look at my fleet. Look at your numbers. You are outnumbered 3-1. Your species will make excellent slaves for the Dominion." Admiral Price did not react. Her expression remained unchanged. "You were warned." The transmission ended. At the Galactic Council observation post, the assembled diplomats watched in real time as the human fleet began to move. Ambassador leaned forward, his 4 eyes fixed on the display. "They are engaging," he said. "They are actually going to fight." "Madness," Counselor whispered. "They cannot possibly win. They are committing suicide." High Arbiter said nothing. He simply watched. The human fleet did not form traditional battle lines. Instead, the ships dispersed into patterns that seemed completely random. They spread out across millions of kilometers of space, moving in directions that made no tactical sense. "What are they doing?" a tactical officer asked. "This formation is insane. They are exposing their flanks, leaving gaps in their defenses." Commander smiled. They are panicking. They know they cannot win, so they are falling apart. All ships advance and engage, destroy them all. The fleet surged forward, thousands of weapons charging for the attack. They closed the distance rapidly, eager to begin the slaughter. Then the humans activated something. Space itself seemed to bend and twist around the human vessels. One moment a ship was in one location. The next moment it was somewhere else entirely, without appearing to move through the space in between. The human fleet flickered and danced across the battlefield, appearing and disappearing like ghosts. "What is happening?" demanded. "How are they doing that?" Before anyone could answer, the human weapons began firing. Beams of pure energy, brighter than stars, lanced out from the human ships. Each beam focused incredible power into a single point. The first dreadnought, a ship that had survived hundreds of battles, vanished in a flash of light so intense that sensors across the system went temporarily blind. Then the second dreadnought was gone. Then 10 more. The fleet, which had expected easy prey, found itself fighting something they could not understand. Human ships appeared behind their lines, fired devastating weapons, then vanished before counterattacks could land. Formations that had been unbreakable for centuries fell apart as the hunters became the hunted. Commander watched in horror as his invasion force was torn to pieces. "Return fire," he screamed. "All weapons fire at will." The ships opened up with everything they had. Missiles streaked through space. Energy beams crisscrossed the battlefield. But the human ships were never where the weapons were aimed. They blinked out of existence, reappeared somewhere else, and continued their attack. Colonel Benjamin Shaw commanded his ship from the center of the chaos. Sweat dripped down his face as he coordinated attacks across the fleet. The spatial displacement system, the technology that allowed his ship to fold space and teleport short distances, was working exactly as designed. But the power drain was enormous. His reactors were already at 50% capacity. "Commander Tor's status report," he ordered. "Enemy losses are exceeding projections," she replied. "We have destroyed approximately 400 vessels. Our losses are minimal. Keep pressing the attack. We need to break them before our power reserves run out." Across the battlefield, the same scene played out again and again. Human ships appearing from nowhere, firing weapons of impossible power, vanishing before retaliation could find them. They, for all their experience and strength, had never faced anything like this. Admiral Price watched from her command ship as the enemy fleet began to break. Vessels that had held formation for decades now scattered in panic, trying to escape the nightmare they had stumbled into. "This is Admiral Price to all fleet elements," she announced. "The enemy is retreating. Do not let them escape. We need to send a message that will be heard across the galaxy." The human fleet pursued, hunting down fleeing ships and destroying them one by one. It was no longer a battle. It was a demonstration of power that would echo through history. At the Galactic Council observation post, no one spoke. The assembled diplomats simply stared at their screens, unable to believe what they were seeing. "Impossible," Counselor finally whispered. "This is impossible." Ambassador slowly shook his head. "Apparently not." High Arbiter turned away from the display. His ancient eyes held something that might have been fear. "We have made a terrible mistake," he said quietly. "We underestimated them, and now everything has changed." The battle lasted 4 hours. When it was over, the invasion fleet had been destroyed. Of their 3,000 warships, fewer than 200 managed to escape into faster-than-light travel. The rest were scattered across millions of kilometers of space, reduced to debris and floating wreckage. Human losses were 18 ships destroyed and 47 damaged. It was the most one-sided military victory in recorded galactic history. Commander survived. His flagship had been crippled early in the battle, its engines destroyed by a direct hit from a human energy weapon. Now he sat in a detention cell on a human military station, surrounded by guards who watched him with cold eyes. He could not understand what had happened. He had led the greatest invasion fleet ever assembled by the Dominion. He had expected to crush a primitive species and claim their worlds for the glory of his empire. Instead, his fleet had been annihilated in hours. The door to his cell opened. A human officer walked in, young by standards, perhaps 30 years old. He had brown hair and calm eyes that showed no fear. "I am Captain Gregory Hall," the human said, sitting down across from. "I have been assigned to question you." His reptilian eyes fixed on the human. "How?" he demanded. "How did you do this? Your species is primitive. You should not possess such technology. Our intelligence said you were weak." Captain Hall folded his hands on the table. "Let me tell you something about humans, Commander. We have been a spacefaring species for only 200 years, but we have been a species for 200,000. Every generation, we find new ways to kill each other. Every conflict teaches us something new about destruction." Listened in silence. "When we first reached the stars and realized we were not alone, we did what we always do," Hall continued. "We prepared for the worst. Our leaders created secret programs to develop weapons and defenses that no one else knew about. For 80 years, our best scientists worked in hidden facilities, creating technologies that would seem like magic to the rest of the galaxy." "You deceived everyone," said. "We survived," Hall replied simply. "That is what humans do." On Earth, celebrations erupted across the planet. People who had spent 2 weeks living in fear now danced in the streets. The enemy had come, and humanity had destroyed them. For the first time in their history, humans knew they were not helpless in a dangerous universe. Admiral Samuel Drake stood in his command center, watching the celebration on news feeds from around the world. He did not smile. He knew that the battle was over, but the war for humanity's future was just beginning. "What are the diplomatic implications?" he asked. Lieutenant Commander Vance handed him a report. "The Galactic Council has requested immediate contact. They want to talk." "I imagine they do," Drake said. "We just demonstrated that we are not the primitives they thought we were. They are probably terrified." "Should we be concerned about retaliation from the Dominion?" Drake shook his head. "They are done. They lost their entire invasion fleet. It will take them decades to rebuild, and they know that if they come for us again, we will not stop at defending ourselves. We will go to there and finish what they started." Far away, at the Galactic Council station, emergency meetings continued around the clock. The 12 member species had to decide how to respond to the sudden revelation that humans were not primitive at all. Ambassador addressed the assembly. "We have received a formal communication from Earth. They wish to open diplomatic relations and discuss potential membership in the Galactic Accord." "Membership?" Counselor asked in surprise. "After what they just did, they want to join us." "It appears so," replied. Their message was actually quite reasonable. They expressed a desire for peace and cooperation, but also made clear that they expect to be treated as equals. High Arbiter spoke from his raised platform. "Do we have any choice? We have seen what they can do. If we refuse their request, if we treat them as enemies, what happens then?" The chamber fell silent. Everyone knew the answer. The humans had just destroyed the galaxy's most feared military power. If they decided the Galactic Council was a threat, the consequences would be terrible. "We must accept," declared. "We must welcome them into our community and hope that they mean what they say about wanting peace." "And if they do not?" another counselor asked. "What if this is just the beginning? What if they want to conquer us all?" Considered the question carefully. "I do not believe that is their intention. From what we have observed, humans prefer to be left alone. They attacked because they attacked them first. They responded to aggression with overwhelming force, but they did not pursue the fleeing enemy ships to there. They could have. They chose not to." So they are dangerous but not aggressive, summarized. Exactly. They are dangerous when provoked, but they do not seek conquest for its own sake. They simply want to be safe. I believe we can work with them as long as we treat them with respect. On the hospital ship Hope, Dr. Maria Santos worked through the night treating wounded soldiers. The casualties had been lighter than expected, but there were still thousands of injured men and women who needed care. One of her patients was a young pilot named Christopher Lane. He was 25 years old, with burns covering much of his body from an explosion that had destroyed his fighter. He was lucky to be alive. "How are you feeling?" Maria asked as she checked his bandages. Christopher managed a weak smile. "I hurt everywhere, but I am glad to be alive. We won, right?" "We won," Maria confirmed. "They are gone." "Good." Christopher closed his eyes. "I was scared, you know. When we saw their fleet, when we knew how many of them there were, I thought we were all going to die. But then our weapons started working and their ships started exploding, and suddenly I was not scared anymore. I was proud." Maria placed a gentle hand on his shoulder. "You should be proud. You all should be. You saved Earth." "We saved everyone," Christopher corrected. "Not just Earth. Every human colony, every family, every child who will ever be born. We saved them all." Maria nodded, feeling tears form in her eyes. "Yes, you did. Now rest. You have earned it." Admiral Drake received the news that the Galactic Council had agreed to open diplomatic negotiations. He immediately began selecting people for the diplomatic team that would represent humanity to the stars. The galaxy was watching. The species that had been dismissed as primitive and violent had just proven themselves to be something far more complex. They were still primitive in some ways, still prone to conflict and emotion. But they were also brilliant, determined, and absolutely deadly when threatened. A new chapter in galactic history was about to begin, and humanity would help write it. 6 months after the Battle of Sol, a single human vessel approached the Galactic Council station. It was not a warship, but a diplomatic cruiser designed for peaceful missions. Still, the aliens watching its approach could not help but feel nervous. They had seen what human ships could do. Ambassador Cole stood at the observation window of his vessel, watching the massive space station grow larger as they approached. He was 55 years old, with gray hair and lines on his face that spoke of difficult experiences. He had spent 20 years as a soldier before becoming a diplomat. He understood both war and peace, which was why he had been chosen for this mission. "We are being scanned," his aide reported. "Multiple sensor systems from at least 8 different species." Cole nodded. "Let them look. We have nothing to hide, not anymore." The diplomatic cruiser docked with the station, and Cole walked alone through the airlock. He had chosen to arrive without guards or assistants. He wanted to show the Council that humanity was confident, not afraid. The Council chamber was enormous, designed to accommodate species of all sizes. 12 different alien races occupied their assigned positions, their various eyes and sensors all focused on the single human who walked to the center of the room. High Arbiter spoke first. "Ambassador Cole, on behalf of the Galactic Council, I welcome you to this station. We have much to discuss." Cole bowed respectfully. "Thank you, High Arbiter. My government has authorized me to negotiate terms for humanity's integration into the galactic community." "Integration," Counselor repeated. "You speak as if you have choices in this matter." Cole smiled, and something in that expression made several counselors shift uncomfortably in their seats. "We always have choices, Counselor. We chose to hide our true capabilities while we developed them. We chose to reveal ourselves only when we were forced to. And now we choose to seek peace and partnership, rather than the alternatives." "What alternatives?" Ambassador asked. He was genuinely curious. "The attacked hour," Cole explained. 14 billion people live on Earth. Every man, woman, and child on that planet spent 2 weeks watching the sky, waiting to discover if they would live or die. When we destroyed the fleet, we sent a message to our people. That message was simple: we will never be victims. He paused, letting his words sink in. The Dominion still exists. We could pursue them. We could do to their worlds what they intended to do to ours. Some in my government wanted exactly that. I am standing here because cooler heads prevailed, because we believe that revenge serves no purpose and peace serves everyone. Cole's expression hardened slightly. But let me be absolutely clear. If any species, any government, any force in this galaxy threatens Earth or her people again, we will respond. Not with measured force, not with proportional retaliation. We will respond with everything we have, and we will not stop until the threat no longer exists. This is not a warning. It is a promise. The chamber was completely silent. After a long moment, High Arbiter spoke again. Ambassador Cole, the Council accepts your proposal for negotiations, but I must ask, for my own understanding, how did your species develop such capabilities so quickly? You are young. You live short lives. You have had only a fraction of the time that older species have had to evolve and grow. Cole considered the question carefully before answering. You are ancient species, High Arbiter. You have had millions of years to develop at a natural pace, to grow slowly and steadily toward the stars. Humanity has had only a moment by comparison. We learned early that the universe does not wait for those who move slowly, so we learned to move fast. He looked around the chamber at the assembled aliens. You watched us from afar and saw a primitive species that could not stop fighting among itself. What you did not see was that every war we fought taught us something. Every conflict made us stronger. Every generation built on what came before. You see our short lives as a weakness. We see them as motivation. We have no time to waste, so we waste none. Leaned forward. And now, what does humanity want now that you have revealed your true strength? The same thing we have always wanted, Cole replied. To survive, to grow, to build a better future for our children than we had ourselves. We do not want to dominate this galaxy. We do not wish to conquer or enslave. We simply refuse to be conquered or enslaved ourselves. And if we work together, if we build partnerships and alliances. Cole's expression softened slightly. Then perhaps we can build something remarkable. Humanity has much to learn from species who have existed for millions of years. You have wisdom we lack. You have perspectives we have never considered. And perhaps, in return, you might learn something from us. What could we possibly learn from you? Another counselor asked. The question was not hostile, merely curious. How to survive when everything seems hopeless, Cole answered. How to fight when fighting seems impossible. How to rebuild after disaster strikes. Humanity has faced extinction many times throughout our history. Wars, plagues, natural disasters that should have destroyed us. Every time we came back. We adapted. We overcame. That is what we offer to this community. Not just our military strength, but our stubborn refusal to give up. The negotiations that followed lasted for months. There were arguments and disagreements. Some species wanted to limit human expansion, fearing what they might become. Others wanted access to human military technology. Still others simply wanted to understand these strange, violent, wonderful creatures who had appeared in the galaxy. In the end, humanity joined the Galactic Accord as full members. They shared some of their technologies, though many remained classified. They established trade relationships and cultural exchanges. They proved to be difficult partners at times, stubborn and proud and frustratingly independent. But they also proved to be loyal allies. When a smaller species was threatened by pirates, human warships arrived to defend them. When a natural disaster struck a council world, human relief teams were among the first to offer help. Slowly, the galaxy began to understand that the humans meant what they said about wanting peace. The Dominion never recovered from their defeat. They to their home territory and closed their borders. Occasionally, merchants would venture into neutral space, and when they encountered human ships, they gave them a very wide path. Years passed. Humanity grew and spread across the stars. They were never fully trusted by some species and never fully understood by any. But they were respected. The story of the Battle of Saul spread across the galaxy, growing with each telling until it became legend. And throughout the cosmos, a new saying emerged, spoken as both warning and wisdom. Do not attack Earth, the humans remember. Admiral Samuel Drake retired 5 years after the battle. He spent his remaining days on a small farm in Montana, watching the sky and knowing that humanity's place among the stars was secure. Ambassador Cole continued his diplomatic work for another decade before retiring himself. He wrote a book about his experiences, which became required reading at every diplomatic academy in the galaxy. The soldiers who fought in the battle became heroes. The scientists who built the weapons became legends. The ordinary people who had watched and waited and hoped became the foundation of a civilization that would endure for thousands of years. Humanity had been tested and they had survived. It was not the end of their story. It was only the beginning.